Okay, so today our workshop is a Zoom refresher course because you all are here, so you evidently knew enough to get onto Zoom. So you're not all absolute newbies. You've taken the first dip into the pool, but that first dip in the pool isn't necessarily one that you feel really secure about. So hopefully by the end of this, you feel a little more secure roaming around all the different things that can happen with Zoom. So every day from here on out until the end of September, there'll be something happening every single day, mostly at 2 o'clock, sometimes at 7. So practice your new Zoom skills. And Michael Bray is going to be the one who's going to be sending us on into our journey into expert Zoom land. And Michael works for the at Wayne State. He works for the Department of Developmental Disabilities, which is a really incredibly important place. It's one of the shining stars of Michigan in that we have Wayne State University's commitment to folks with developmental disabilities. And Mike's been a part of it for a long time and has been a really strong advocate. And I'm really happy that he's here to bring us up to speed with Zoom.
Thanks, Susan. I was trying to remember when you and I first met, and it's got to be well over 15 years ago now.
I think Teddy was little.
Teddy was, no, geez, Teddy was really little.
Yeah, he just turned 37.
Oh my gosh.
So
all right, well, now I feel old.
It might be 30 years.
Potentially, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. So yeah, thank you, Susan. So my name is Mike Bray. I work for the Michigan Developmental Disabilities Institute, or MyDDI. We are the state of Michigan's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. We're part of the national, we're known as UCDIS. We're part of that national university center network that is housed under the Association of University Centers for Disability in Washington, D.C. We have been at Wayne State. So every state and territory has a center like us. We serve the state of Michigan. And we are housed at Wayne State. We've been there for about 30 years, a little over 30 years, actually. And before that, the institute was housed at the University of Michigan. And let me see, I just want to make sure I didn't freeze up here. So I'm going to share a few things today, and I appreciate Susan's confidence in me that I'm going to make you all Zoom experts. I don't consider myself a Zoom expert. I consider myself a Zoom super user, seeing as I'm on multiple Zoom sessions every day, which seems like forever at this point, but definitely since March 13th. That's when I started working from home, when the quarantine began. So. And it's an important topic, very important topic as far as accessibility goes, because as I'm sure most of you realize, our world is very different now, and meeting online using things like Zoom or Adobe Connect, Skype, any number of those tools has really changed how we relate to each other, how we receive our healthcare services, how we meet with family members. It's been a real game changer, and along the way, we've learned where things aren't as accessible as perhaps we thought they were, and we've learned different tricks for, wow, this is really accessible. So there's been discovery on both sides of the coin. I will say for Zoom, this is the primary platform we use at MyDDI, and I personally have seen over the last 3 months, their attention to accessibility has really grown, which is great. It's wonderful news for everyone. They've really addressed a lot of the bigger issues, and they continue to address them because, as much as we want to make the internet 100% accessible, it's not. And all we can do is, when we see something that isn't accessible, or we see something that presents itself as an obstacle, that we identify it and we address it, and we figure out a way to make it not an obstacle. And that's just the way I operate. So I really hope that I can share some tips with you today. I was telling Susan beforehand that I do have several files that were developed by the Neisinger Center, which is our counterpart at Ohio State University. They developed a series of plain language Zoom guides. They're fantastic. I have them both in Word and PDF format. And I'm going to share, Susan, I'm going to share them with you if that's okay. And then you can share them with all the participants. But I'm also going to give you my email. So, you know, anyone, please feel free to contact me and I can share those directly with you as well. I do have a couple things. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and share with you just a very brief presentation, just to kind of lay some groundwork here. One thing with Zoom, and in thinking about how I was going to share with you different options and different aspects of how to use Zoom. One thing I can't do is record my screen and show you what I would see as a participant or what you see as a participant in me using it. It sounds complicated, it is. So what I did is I recorded a brief video that I'm going to share in a minute that kind of runs through some of the more basic options. Just, you know, some of the things that you as a Zoom participant can turn on and off, change the way you see a Zoom session, and change different pieces of the Zoom session to hopefully make it more usable, more accessible, and just to make you more comfortable with using all these different options. So just a little bit about MyDDI. So our mission at MyDDI is to contribute to the development of inclusive communities and the quality of life of people with disabilities and their families. And we serve individuals from birth to death, across the lifespan, and in every facet of life, education, community living and support, employment, healthcare. We're 100% grant funded. So we're really project driven, meaning that we work on a variety of different topics. Oops, I think I just, let me get that out of there. Okay. Let me go back. Going to reshare here. Okay. And we provide support to programs and individuals throughout the state of Michigan. And that is our web address, and I'll drop that in the chat so everyone, so you can see that and use that. So what is Zoom? You're all here. You're on Zoom. So it's a video conference and meeting service. Before Zoom, we had things like Skype. We had things, geez, I'm trying to remember now because I've been doing video meetings online since probably the late 90s when you had to wait for your dial-up to connect, when it took probably a half hour to download a picture. So it's changed tremendously over the last 20 years. You know, so Zoom is very similar to other things like that, like Microsoft Teams that some of you may have used. Adobe Connect is a very popular one. I know at the federal level, that's a popular platform that's used. And Zoom is currently used by millions upon millions of people to meet online, share presentations. I get together with my siblings. You were talking about the Upper Peninsula earlier. I'm originally from the UP, from Escanaba. So when I saw Silva's name and heard her accent, it made me feel right at home. I went to Northern Michigan University in Marquette, and I do have a Sisu sticker on my truck. So I am very familiar. And my father, we built a sauna on the back of our house 35 years ago. So I was really happy to hear Silva's accent. It's wonderful. So I'll talk a little bit about some accessibility features, and then I really want to open it up to hear from everyone else. I find that, you know, with things like Zoom or any other types of software or services, everyone has a different experience with it because everyone has different lived experiences and different abilities, okay? So I really would like to hear other people's stories if there are things that they have found that really help them. Other things perhaps that have been obstacles. We communicate with Zoom quite a bit. We've had Zoom accounts since I think late 2017, early 2018, around there, a few years now. And we've really communicated with them about different aspects of accessibility. And I know we're not the only ones. They have really stepped up to the plate, especially the last few months. And they're continually working on it. You know, there are definitely some things that still need to be changed. But I'll touch on some options here, like closed captioning, which is being used on this meeting now. Automatically generated transcripts. So at the conclusion of the meeting, Susan, as the host, will have a transcript automatically generated from this meeting that can be shared, and it's just in text form. But that's one thing that every meeting has that uses closed captioning. They do have screen reader support for the platform. There's keyboard accessibility, and I'm going to share with you a document that has a list of different keyboard shortcuts. And then video pinning, and I know, Nick, you talked about that. So we have an ASL interpreter on here, and you can pin his video, so that video is the video you see at all times. So you can see, and I forget his name, I'm sorry, his name, Ben? Matthew, right? Susan?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I just want to make sure. So you can pin Matthew's video, and you will see him throughout the presentation. And as a company, they're committed to addressing accessibility. And I'm not trying to pitch them. I have no stake in the company, but this is just our experience. They've been very good about addressing accessibility needs, and it's an ongoing process. And I know they constantly update their accessibility page, and I'll share the page here in a second as well. And as I'm going along, just if you have questions or if you need me to repeat something or slow down, please let me know as we go along. Different Zoom resources have been developed. I mentioned this a little earlier. Have been developed by members of our national network. So for example, the Ohio State version of MyDDI, it's called the Neisinger Center, which I'm sure many people are familiar with. They're a very big center, very active. They've developed Zoom plain language how-to guides, which are very, very helpful. And I also have a list of the Zoom keyboard shortcuts. I want to share that with everybody today. So I mentioned I'm going to send those to Susan, who can then share them with all the participants. However, I'm going to share my email as well. So if you would like those sent directly to you, you can email me anytime.
So you've got a question. How
Yes.
do you pin something?
Okay. So what I'm going to do now, and to address that, Elaine, great question. I'm going to share a video that I recorded that kind of runs through just some of the basics of navigating your Zoom window. So as a participant, you see the window with a video in the middle, or you see a grid of everyone's faces or names. And the best way for me to show you just some of the different ways to interact with that is to show you this video that'll run through that. And then we can address more questions after that, if that works for everyone. Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find the video. And I do talk about pinning a video as well. And this will help because it does show you where that option is. So we'll share this. Hey, everyone. Just going to run through a few items in Zoom for those who are participants on a meeting. What you're seeing right now is the participant view of a Zoom meeting. You may have been on Zoom meetings before. This might be your first time. Either way, you know, what the presenters see is different than what participants like you and I see. So I wanted to go through a few participant view specific things, okay? So the first one is just kind of where all the buttons are. Okay, so first thing we want to look at are these controls down in the bottom left corner before we look at anything else. So you have the ability to mute and unmute yourself, okay? You have the ability to turn on and turn off your video. There are different options here as well. And depending on the type of computer you have, you'll have different microphones to choose from. It should automatically select your active microphone and your camera for you to use. If not, then you can look in these settings and choose it. If you're on a Zoom meeting, you'll notice in the top right corner, there's something that says gallery view, and it has a bunch of dots next to it. This button, if you click it, will change what you see on your screen. So right now what you're seeing is a gallery view, okay? And that is little boxes that have everyone who's participating on the meeting in those boxes. And if you click up here now where it says speaker view, what you're gonna see is everyone along the top who's not speaking in little boxes. And then you're gonna see in the big box in the middle, whoever's speaking. So that's usually the presenter, or if someone is asking a question, they'll pop up in the big box. It's really up to you how you want to view it. And I would say whatever you're most comfortable with seeing. If you use the speaker view right here, this is good if there's someone doing a presentation. You'll see them in this box here. I'll turn on the video for the speaker. So oddly enough, you're going to see the side of my head because I'm using two computers right now. Okay. If I go to gallery view, you're going to see everyone in little boxes, whether they're talking or not. Okay. I'm going to go back to speaker view and shut off this camera. Okay. The next piece would be how to see all of the participants on the Zoom session, how to open the chat, and all those commands are going to be down here at the bottom of your Zoom window. So let's go ahead, we'll click on participants. Now this is going to show you everyone on the side here who's in the meeting, okay? And there are a few things you can do in here as well. Sometimes when we join a meeting, our name shows up differently than how we want it to be, okay? So what you can do is go up to the top and find yourself. So I'm going to find my name here, Michael Bray, and then you click on More, and you'll be able to highlight rename. And then this little box will pop up here, and you can call yourself whatever you want. So I'm going to name myself Mr. Zoom, just for fun. And then you can select whether you want that name to be remembered for future meetings when you log in from your computer, and that's up to you. Click OK, and you'll see your name changes in the list here, and that's what everyone will see on the meeting, whatever name you put here, okay? Some other options in the participant box include the unmute. You can mute and unmute yourself here. You can also do that by going over the picture of yourself, whether you're in gallery view or presenter view. So this is me here. Hi. And I can click here to mute or unmute myself. I can also click in this box here and do some other options, which I'll go over in a minute. Okay. So I'm going to go back to speaker view. So you can also mute and unmute yourself from the participant panel. The other option that a lot of meetings use is the raise hand. So for example, if you have a question while the speaker's talking, you can click raise hand, and you'll see up in the top, under next to your name, a little blue raised hand, a little hand icon shows up next to your name. The presenter or whoever's running the meeting will see that. And they'll know that you have a question. You can also lower your hand if you no longer have a question, or maybe if your question gets answered already, you can lower your hand, okay? Those are a few options in the participant panel. Now I'm going to go ahead and open the chat box, and you come back down to the bottom of the screen here, click chat, okay? And that'll open this window. So here you can say, I have a question. Okay, and you can type whatever you need to in here. A lot of Zoom meetings use these chat boxes for asking and answering questions, or just generally throughout the meeting if people need or have a comment to add. You can select, so by default, whatever you type here, everyone's going to see. Okay, you can see here, bottom right corner says everyone. You can click on that and change it to a specific participant. So if I click Mylan staff, whatever I type here is only going to be sent privately to that person, okay? But just know that when you first open the chat box, whatever you type in there will be seen by everyone on the meeting, okay? There's other options in here as well that you can use. You can click on File, and then I can share a file in the chat box. I'll go ahead and do that so you can see what it looks like. if I click on your computer, it's going to show me my computer. And I will go ahead and share, let's see, just share my daily to-do list. I'll drop that in the chat box, select it, click open, and there. And now everyone on the meeting will be able to click and download that file. Okay, so that's something I use that once in a while. I am going to use that today to share some files. I have not heard anything from people about this not being accessible. So if you do happen to encounter a problem getting a file from the chat, let me know. Let me know so we can make sure that we're doing that in a way that everybody is able to access it. Let's see, other options here. There's the share screen, and if you're allowed to share your screen or you need to share your screen during the meeting, right now you'll see it's been disabled by the host. Okay. You can record meeting if you're allowed to as a participant. Most of the time meetings, and you can request host if you need to have a recording of the meeting to go back and watch. It's a really handy tool to use. What else? But that's something you would have to ask permission to record a meeting if you're not the host. Okay. And then this fun box, your reactions, you can give a thumbs up, and that's going to show up on the box here by your name. I'm going to go to gallery view so it's bigger. So if I have a reaction, I can clap my hands, say, hey, yay, that'll show up here, or thumbs up. Okay. And that's just something fun you can do. Go back to speaker view. Okay. Another fun thing you can do is you can pin a video, or you can pin a certain participant. And what that means is if there is, for example, an ASL interpreter, American Sign Language interpreter, that is doing sign language interpretation on the Zoom call, you can pin that video and you will see that video throughout the entire meeting. Okay. So if I go here up to this, click on the three dots, let's say this box here, Mr. Zoom, let's say I'm the sign language interpreter and I want to pin my video. I'm going to click on the three dots once I hover over it, and you'll see an option to pin video. Click on that, and then I'm going to show up in the big speaker view, and I'm not going to go away no matter who's talking. This is the video you will see until you go up here and click on unpin video. Okay, if I unpin it, then I go away. All right. Again, if you click on the three dots next, next to where it says unmute on the video you want to see, or the video feed, or the participant you want to see, click on pin video. There you go, and that'll be there. So if I were doing the sign language interpretation for this Zoom session, you could pin me, and I would be here, and you would see me the whole time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and unpin. Right. What else can I show you? Grid view we talked about. Turning on captioning. So, okay. So if closed captioning is available, then it'll show up down here. So I just did that. Okay. If closed captions available, you'll see an option here. And if you click on that, it's going to give you some options. You will have show subtitle, view full transcript, subtitle settings, and you can change that. Okay. To make it bigger, large. Okay, you have some control over that. Let's go ahead and exit that. But if there are closed captions available, you'll see them down at the bottom of the screen in your options. Okay, and you can turn those on. You can show subtitles, so they'll be here. Okay, so I will go ahead and type something. And your closed captions will show up here. Breakout rooms are set up by the host of the meeting. And if there are breakout rooms, you will be assigned to them by the host. And all a breakout room is a private room where a certain number of people from the meeting will go to, say, have a small group discussion. They're going to be used during the meeting today. And what happens is when you're assigned, a note will pop up on your Zoom screen saying, go to breakout room, and you would just click on that and you'll join the room automatically, and that's really all you have to do. The host controls the breakout rooms and how long people are in there, and will bring you back to the main room when they're done. One thing that is being used more and more, designated breakout rooms for people who are blind or deaf, users that need different accessibility or options or support. These breakout rooms will have different options, such as American Sign Language interpreters, real-time closed captioning. There are different things that can be used. Right. I hope that was somewhat helpful. And I did say we were going to use breakout rooms today, but we're not going to, right, Susan? We're not doing that today.
I don't think we need
Okay. I don't want to misquote you. But yeah, so those are just, some of them are basic tools. Hopefully there's some things in there people can use. And Lindy asks, can we get a brief tutorial on iPad Zoom usage? And that I don't know if I can give you a tutorial on it, but that's a really good point to bring up. So what I just showed you is is the Zoom functionality if you're connecting to a Zoom session on a computer, or say a laptop or a desktop computer. If you're connecting using something like an iPad, your phone, or a different mobile device, you're going to see something different. Okay, and that's really one of the hard parts of doing, say, a presentation like this is, depending on the device you're using, you may see something different. Your options might be different. And it's really a matter of getting used to using that particular device to connect to Zoom and to participate in Zoom sessions. So again, what I just ran through was using Zoom on, say, a desktop or laptop computer. And it should look like that pretty consistently across, say, if you're using, HP or Apple computer. I mean, they might look a little bit different, but the functionality should be about the same. Using Zoom on a phone, for example, I have a Pixel, I have an Android phone, and the way Zoom works on there is different. I will say the mobile experience, it's pretty good. As far as accessibility goes, I think they still have some things to work out. But compared to the computer experience, they're getting there. It's not bad. But I have talked to folks who have ran into issues, being able to pin a video, for example, on a mobile device. Now iPads, I think it's a little better. If you have a larger tablet, for example, the experience should be pretty similar to what you're experiencing on, say, a PC. But again, depending on the device, depending on the manufacturer, whoever made it, right? You could have a different experience on that. Just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that as well. One other thing. Are there any other questions or comments? I really want to hear from all of you about different things you've encountered. So Aisling, if closed captions are available, is it the host who makes these available or decides to offer them as an accessible feature? Is this easy to set up as the meeting host? Great question. Yes. The host has to make the closed captioning available. Susan and I were just talking about this beforehand as well. So prior to about, maybe a month ago, Susan, Zoom, May, yeah, it's about May or so maybe a couple months. In Zoom, you had to have a third party actively typing in the closed captions, okay? But now Zoom has a automatic captioning that happens. I would say it's similar to how YouTube adds that to videos as well. It's pretty darn good. Most people, like Susan, I was telling Susan, I was just talking to someone about this, and their experience has been pretty good so far. It'll go back and correct things if it realizes that the word it used isn't fitting the context of the sentence, which is pretty incredible. I mean, it's artificial intelligence. It's learning as it goes. So that's one thing. But yes, the host will need to make that option. So if you're looking to if you're looking to be a host or to offer, say, a Zoom meeting or facilitate a Zoom meeting, then you would have to make sure to turn that option on. So that's a really good question. Sure. I'm going to share. So there's, like I mentioned, I have a few resources that I'm going to share with folks that I'll send to Susan to send out, because the plain language guides, I have 8 different files, and I would hesitate to start dropping all of that into the chat. It would get confusing. So
Do you want me to send copies of those files to you? Just put your email address in the chat.
Great idea. Thank you. Yeah. I am going to share one file though, because I wanted to kind of show that feature as well. So let me share this first. So in Zoom, they have a list of their keyboard shortcuts. So if you're using a keyboard to navigate through a Zoom meeting, obviously I'm not going to go through all of these, but there are quite a few. And this is a nice, just, putting them all together in one place for folks. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with everyone as well. Okay. This is another example of part of their accessibility settings. And I'm going to drop this Word file in the chat, and then you can download it. But Susan, I'll also send this to you as well to share with the other files. So that's one example. And I just wanted to share, I know for me, it helps to really see things, to know where to find them. So this is Zoom's accessibility page at zoom.us/accessibility. And they list a lot of their accessibility features, their keyboard accessibility, the closed captioning. They have guides for all of these things. If this is something that, if you're looking like you're going to be hosting a Zoom meeting in the near future, and you want to know more about how to make sure that these features that you can use them, that you can enact them for your meeting, it's a great resource here. They talk about their process. They have several accessibility documents, and you can see these were just revised in June. So they're really on top of revising all of these things. So for the desktop applications, for the mobile applications, right? So we talked about how your Zoom experience might be different when you're using an iPad versus a desktop computer versus a phone. So they have different guides here using Zoom Rooms, plugins for Outlook. So whatever you're looking for, they have quite a bit here. Normally, I would say if you contact their support, they're really prompt at getting back to you. They're not that prompt right now. They, as everyone knows, Zoom has been bombarded with users over the last few months. And I've been waiting on a response from their support now for a good month. So just so you know, if you contact Zoom support right now, it's going to take a while. And I wish I could tell you that that's going to get fixed soon, but yeah. I understand it, but at the same time, I think it's good to be aware that things are taking a lot longer to happen. One other resource I want to share is from the University of California, and this is a nice page I go to quite often, electronic accessibility page that they post up. There are so many resources out there. Most universities, most disability institutes like us that live in different states have some sort of page like this, or resources available. And this one specifically has some Zoom and accessibility items on here, talking about what things we've talked about today, captioning, transcripts, tips for meeting with screen reader users. That's a really good one. So Zoom does play well with, from what I understand, with most screen readers. Again, everyone has a different experience with this. So my advice to you is, if you know you're going to have a user, or if you are a user that uses a screen reader, you test it out with Zoom prior to, say, going on a meeting. If you have the opportunity, You can contact me as well. I'd be happy to test it with you. But definitely, test out what you're using. If you're using technology, to communicate or to connect with someone, test it out while using Zoom, because it's really good to help troubleshoot it ahead of time. Presentation etiquette is a big one. We talk a lot in the disability community and in the work we do about plain language, right? About accommodating users of all ability levels, right? I work primarily in the area of instructional design. And one thing I'm a huge proponent of is Universal Design for Learning, UDL. I'm sure some of you have heard of that. It's been a movement that's finally been catching on more and more, especially with now so many, of us learning and working from home or distance education. Universally designing something is making sure that it's widely accessible to users. And one of those big things is plain language, not using acronyms, or at least explaining the use of acronyms and what they mean. So yeah, I just wanted to share, a couple of these things. I'll drop, I think I can, I'll drop that link in the chat as well. So you can open that up. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Anybody have any stories about using Zoom or another platform? Tips that have helped them? I know, Nick, that you're pretty involved with supporting technology. I'm wondering if there's any tips or any tricks that you have that you would like to add.
Oh, that was actually very informative for me. So
oh, good.
Go back and listen to it and try to take some notes and get my game better.
No, not at all. Not at all. I learn something every week. I'm probably on 20 to 30 Zoom sessions a week at this point, and I'm always finding another little way to make the meeting, go smoother, or to help somebody else connect to it.
Zoom is always changing. I mean, it's not a static.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, that's a great point. This is constantly changing. And that's one thing about Zoom in particular is they update this platform constantly. You may log in tomorrow and everything I just showed you might be different. I really hope not, but they do update how Zoom works and where these different buttons are. One thing Susan and I talked about is I wish there was a way to make the buttons, the options across the bottom of your Zoom window bigger. I mean, you can increase the size of what's on your screen, right? But it's not going to be proportional. It's going to distort. If we could make the toolbar at the bottom bigger, I'm not aware of a way to do that right now. You can make your chat window and your participant panel bigger by dragging that, right? But it doesn't make the toolbar bigger because those buttons at the bottom can look very small, depending on your vision. Depending on the size of your computer. If you have a small screen, it's going to be pretty hard to see. So there are definitely, always rooms for improvement here. But
well, I have a large screen, but since I have low vision, I actually discovered after I had somebody, go through the screen with me and say, "Didn't you know there are those little carrots over here?" And I'm like, no. But now that you pointed them out to me, yeah, I can see there's a little fuzzy spot there. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, well, it's
right.
A carrot. So, it does all sorts of things.
Yeah, yes.
I have a question. So if I'm presenting, am I going to actually see my face up at the top, and so they can see me speaking, but then I'll be able to see my presentation if I'm sharing it then? Will that be on my main screen? Or how does it look for you when you're actually, sharing your screen?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. What it looks like for the presenter or the host is different than what the participants do see. So when I just shared that full screen presentation, you probably saw me talking in a box in the right corner, right? I don't see me. So what I'll see is I'll see that box, but I saw Susan. I saw whoever was maybe the last person to talk, or she's listed as the host, so I saw her up in that box. But
Okay.
when you're presenting, everyone will see your presentation with a box of you, if your video's on, speaking next to it. Yeah.
Okay.
You
But
won't
what
see
will
that.
I see? So will I see actually my screen in front of me?
Yeah, you'll see your presentation. You'll
Okay.
see your presentation full screen.
Okay.
And as a presenter, that is one thing that can be a little tricky. You just got to make sure that if you're doing a full screen presentation, say using PowerPoint, that when you're done, you exit out of that so that you can go back to the Zoom window and see everyone. You'll have the little boxes on the side, and you'll have your toolbar across the top.
Okay.
Right. So if someone posts in the chat, it'll alert you. But yeah, you see something a little different than the participants see.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I could actually see my PowerPoint, so I didn't have to have it up somewhere else, or I wasn't looking somewhere else while I
Right.
was talking, because I know, people who need, ASL,
Mhm.
that would be distracting for them. So I just wanted to make sure.
Right. No, and here's one thing though. So if you are presenting and you're showing your slides full screen so the participants can see them, you cannot see if you have notes, if you have presenter notes in the PowerPoint, you're not gonna be able to see those.
Okay.
Okay. So one thing, if I need those, I usually will have to print out a copy to have a paper copy on hand.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be the one thing. Yeah, that's the one workaround I've used for that. But yeah, everyone will see, your full presentation with a video of you next to it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
So we've got a question. If you share your screen, is it the screen reader support that makes these usable for people with sight loss, or is it slides or videos? What makes it?
That is a really good question. The screen reader is supposed to interact with the Zoom window. So if the presentation's in there, it should read it. However, I'm not gonna say it does. Again, that's gonna be very different for different types of screen readers, different types of technology, and even the computer will make a difference on that as well. I wish I had a better answer for that, but I just don't. Is there anyone that has used a screen reader that's on here now that has used a screen reader specifically with a Zoom session that would like to share their experience? I can dig into that more. I've heard varying stories on that. I'm trying to remember which screen reader. It wasn't JAWS. I've heard JAWS works pretty well with it. I don't have direct experience with that though, unfortunately. Shoot, I wish I could. I don't remember her name. There's someone I co-presented with that used a screen reader, and I'm going to find that name, Susan. I'd like to actually follow up with her on that because she would be able to answer that.
One thing that I've heard is that the chat can interfere with a screen reader.
The chat can be, yeah, the way that the chat flows and is set up, yeah, it can sound pretty jumbled. I think the way that it will go through a chat, especially as new chats come in. But again, it's going to depend a lot on what's being used and how the person has it set up on their computer.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? We're about the end of our time, so everybody's questions are welcome.
And I wasn't able to drop that file into the chat.
Okay, so anybody who wants a copy of that file and other files, just drop you can either send it to me privately or publicly, just put your email address in, and then I will add you. And if you want to get on the Google list to be kept updated about what's happening, I can add you to that also.
Yeah, and Susan, I'll send you those files right after we conclude here. But again, I'm going to put my email in the chat as well. And if anyone would like these sent directly to them or has any questions, go ahead and shoot me an email.
Mike, thank you so much for doing this. Really
Oh, no,
appreciate it.
anytime. Happy to. And I appreciate how ambitious you all are being with this series. It's heavy duty. It's awesome though. So any other support you need as you go along, just let me know.
Well, that's good to know. And all of you, I hope you look at the schedule. It's on mi-ada.org and see what else is going on. We've got all kinds of workshops. Most of them are at 2 o'clock every day. We have some on Thursday nights that are at 7, and we have a few that are 11. And Saturday night, we have fun. So we're going to have comedy acts and dances and musical entertainment. If you've never danced in a Zoom call before, I strongly recommend it. It's a pretty amazing experience to be on a Zoom call and you're dancing with people all over the world or even all over the state, whatever. So I encourage you to try that out. This coming Saturday, we have Elaine on the call and she's doing a concert. She is a folk singer from the 70s. She was one of the original Adapt Action people that made the ADA happen, and she was there singing to keep people strong. And so she's doing a concert on Saturday. So I encourage you all to be participants, and I encourage you all to use the ADA every day in your lives because it's a living, breathing document, and the strength of it is in our using it, understanding it, and demanding that our rights are enforced. Because if we don't insist, nobody's going to do it for us. So thank you all for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good day.